What is going on, guys? I'm gonna give some time for people just to hop on. I'm just doing an impromptu live stream. Figured got a little bit of free time this afternoon before I dive back into the credenza. So let's go ahead and do a quick live stream. So let me pull up the chat. I'm gonna give this a couple minutes to go ahead and populate, and we can get to it. So if you've got some questions, you can go ahead and leave them in the chat. And I do have super chat enabled, which is something that's new to me. Basically, I think it's some sort of paid chat functionality. I don't really know, honestly, but I know that it leaves your comment up for longer. So if this chat starts to get kind of crazy, which I think it probably will, it already looks like a bunch of you guys are hopping on here, which is awesome. So if it gets a little crazy, just, do a super chat or whatever if you really want your question answered. Hold on, I don't know, for some reason my laptop just turned off. So what is going on, everybody? Dylan's Woodworks, what's going on? Stumptown Woodworks, yep, live streaming, giving this a shot. Hopefully the quality is okay. If you guys let me know quality is good. What is going on, Beardless Man? How you doing, man? Anton, geez, man, a bunch of y'all. Mike, Bryce, quality is great. That's awesome. I am off of my Wi-Fi. I live in kind of a rural area of the country and don't get great Wi-Fi. So advice for starting off with absolutely nothing. So I did a video a couple weeks ago, 5 woodworking tools for beginners. I would definitely go check that out if you haven't seen it already. That would kind of, I think, give you a list of tools that would be what I'd recommend for getting started. Basically, circular saw, jigsaw, drill, and maybe an impact driver, router, and then a random orbit sander, and you can basically build all that stuff. Joey, what's going on, man? Simple DIYer, been a while since I've seen one of your videos, bro. Anton, thanks, man. I'm really digging the tool wall. This thing is a game changer, not only for looks, but for storage. Oh, let me turn off my live sound here. And let me hop in the chat here on my computer so it's a little easier for me to manage. What's going on, Shane? So PTWR makes, I think making a French cleat system without a table saw would be pretty tricky. You could theoretically do it with a circular saw, but I don't know if that's really what I'd recommend. So I would try to find a table saw of somebody else's that you could use. So hold on, let me just pull up the chat full screen here, guys. Let's see. So I don't have any more videos coming out about more of the tool holders, but they're pretty simple. I showed the clamp racks, which are kind of up here out of camera here on the video. That was a big one. I basically just made 3 of those. This kind of smaller clamp rack down here for the kind of F-style clamps, and then 2 of the bigger ones for my parallel K-body Revo clamps, and then my Rockler clamps. So let's see. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, Shane's Hobby Shop, table saw is a must for French cleats. I would tend to agree personally. So Rasmus, hi from Finland. What's going on, man? Welcome. What am I planning next? So I've got a big mid-century modern credenza that I've been teasing in a couple of videos that I am kind of getting towards the home stretch for. She's a huge piece. It's like 3 full sheets of walnut veneer plywood, and it's like 64 inches wide. It's going to be taller than I am, so it's just a really, really big piece. So working on that. That'll probably be out in 2 weeks. I've got Evan and Caitlin from the Evan and Caitlin channel. If you guys aren't familiar with them, they're actually coming on Monday, and they'll be here all week next week. So we're working on some cool projects with them. So that's going to be really fun. Let's see. Fran, is it possible to make it with MDF? I probably wouldn't recommend it. I don't think MDF has as much holding power as something like plywood or just regular old hardwood. You could definitely do this with just cheap pine from your home center as well if you didn't want to do plywood. You could maybe get away with OSB, maybe. I know April Wilkerson used OSB for her wall panels, so if you wanted to save money for the wall panels and use OSB, that would probably be fine. Let's see. Shane, what do I consider the best angle? I just did 45 degrees and it worked out really well. Everything's nice and solid on the wall. I think 45 degrees, honestly, I don't think it matters that much because it's such a steep angle when the tool holder's resting on it that it's not going to make a huge difference. So let's see. Dylan's Woodworks, where I get my materials. Home Depot, Lowe's, my local lumber dealer. This is all Pure Bond plywood. They weren't a sponsor or anything for this one, but I do actually really like their plywood, and I wanted it cut to its proper height by the panel saw at Home Depot, so that I wouldn't have to try to do that with my track saw and wrestle around the full sheet and that kind of stuff. So I only have 88-inch tall ceilings in this part of the shop, which is kind of annoyingly low, but whatever. It is what it is. So I had Home Depot go ahead and cut all the panels to 88 inches tall, and that way I just needed to rip the final panel to width. It's 142 inches across. So worked out really well. It was almost exactly 3 full half-inch sheets of plywood for the panels, and then 1 3/4-inch sheet of plywood for all of the French cleat strips themselves, and that left me with probably 5 full-length strips to use for like any of the various tool holders and that kind of thing. So it worked out really perfect. So let's see. Bryce, yeah, I used half-inch plywood for the back panels. Dylan, I guess I didn't answer where I'm located. I'm in the Asheville, North Carolina area. So Pure Bond is actually local to me. They're only about, one of their plants is about an hour from me. So really like to use their stuff when I can, because it's good quality and the price is right, and it's easy to work with. So let's see. The TED Squad, do I read the comments or no? Yes, I read every single comment. I haven't gotten to all the comments from yesterday's video yet. Just been kind of busy this morning getting other stuff done, but I read and try to respond to every single comment. So if you guys leave a comment and I don't respond, I apologize, but I really try to get to them all. And if I don't get to it, usually it's because YouTube didn't notify me properly. So yeah, let's see. Hello from the Netherlands, Niels, welcome. Fran, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. How much time did it take me to make? So it took me about 2 days to get the panels done, and then that kind of initial round of tool holders put up. And then I spent another couple of hours this morning getting all the extra pieces that kind of didn't make the video up. So probably 2.5 days maybe. So really great weekend project. I think I spent $180 on plywood. So not super cheap, but also for this amount of storage, I don't think you can beat it realistically. So yeah. Dylan, anything I would have done different? Well, I literally put it up yesterday, so I haven't had a lot of chance to use it, but so far I really like the way it's laid out. Basically, before I had some stuff on the kind of wall here and the wall here, and it was kind of encroaching on my workbench, and I couldn't kind of get, especially to this end vise here on the workbench, couldn't get to it very well. So having both sides of those really makes the workbench feel a lot more spacious. And obviously on camera, it looks freaking awesome. So I'm pretty pumped about that. So let's see. Who else? Casey Crampton. Should I get a planer or a table saw first? I do mostly all my cuts on a miter saw and circular saw. I hate using a belt sander or router to make the piece flat. So that's a tough one. I personally would probably go for the table saw first, but I would very soon... I would kind of make it a priority to try to buy a planer soon after that. So I think the table saw is just one of those tools that I don't think any woodworker who has the space and budget should be without, because it's just so versatile and you can do so much with it. It's so much more precise than a circular saw and that kind of thing. So I'd probably get that before a planer, but then you could start saving for the planer right after that. And the nice thing is you can buy pre-milled lumber. It's more expensive. And it can be limiting depending on what you have available to you, but definitely table saw is a pretty critical tool. Let's see. Tim Wainwright, always stop at Asheville Hardware and pick up slabs. Yeah, definitely know the guys at Asheville Hardware very well. Dan, the manager there, is a buddy of mine. I go in there, I don't know, maybe not once a week, but probably every other week, and just picking up random supplies, whether it's more dominoes or just kind of browsing the slabs. Also, a couple of my favorite breweries are right around there. So yeah, it's Asheville Hardware is probably my favorite kind of woodworking store in town. It's also the closest to my house, about 20 minutes from me, so pretty easy. So let's see. Yeah, you guys are from all over. This is awesome. Let's see. Will I be making, from William, will I be making more videos on different things I can hang on the French cleat wall? Maybe. It just depends kind of how things go. I feel pretty good about how it's set up right now. I did get this drill charging station from my buddy Andy Glass. I know a couple of people had asked in the comments on the YouTube video about that. He sent it to me. He's actually producing this now as a kind of ready to assemble piece. It's $100, which I think is a ridiculously good deal. And then it takes about 15 minutes to screw together once it's shipped to you. And it'll hold 5 drills or impact drivers. It's got tons of storage for bits and that kind of stuff. Plus I've got some charging. You know, got 2 Milwaukee battery chargers here, a DeWalt one up top, a rigid one up top. So I've got a ton of space in there for all that kind of stuff. So really nice, and that hangs on the wall really nicely. I just stuck a French cleat on the back of it. So let's see. Oh man, these are going fast, sorry. Sorry if I'm missing any of these. Barina D, how much weight can it hold? I'm not totally sure, but I think it can hold quite a bit. You know, with the way the French cleat is designed, the weight is spread out across the entire cleat, so it can hold a ridiculous amount. Like a lot of cabinet makers use French cleats to mount cabinets on walls of kitchens and things like that, and you can imagine how much a fully loaded cabinet full of, you know, plates and all that kind of stuff would weigh. So for this kind of thing, it's plenty strong. I mean, I'm pretty sure I could hang off of one of these, no problem. Actually, this clamp rack, probably loaded with clamps, probably weighs almost as much as I do. Those clamps are extremely heavy. So yeah. All right, let's see. Catlin, can I do a video where I make a laptop stand? Actually, I have been thinking about doing that, so that might be on the list for sure. I derp a lot. Do I think having a very structured tool display will help structure my thoughts and streamline my process? I definitely think having a spot for all of your tools is super helpful. I think coming into a clean shop is just, it's inspiring, makes you want to work a little harder, I think, and kind of just, it does, I think, clear your mind a little bit. So I definitely think having a spot for every tool is important. And I did kind of have that before with the pegboard, but if I got new tools, which I do all the time, it was kind of a pain to rearrange. So that was one of the big reasons to go with the French cleat. Carl, let's see. What am I going to teach at Workbench? I imagine you mean Workbench Con in Atlanta. If you guys don't know about Workbench Con, it's coming up February 22nd through 24th. I'm going to be one of the speakers there. A bunch of other awesome people are going to be there. Ben Ueda from Homemade Modern, Mike Montgomery from Modern Builds, Chris Salamoni from Four Eyes, Jimmy DeResta, Bob Claggett, Brad Rodriguez, John Malecki, Evan and Caitlin. I'm sure I'm forgetting some people, but a lot of awesome people are going to be there. April Wilkerson, yeah, ton of great people. And I am going to be talking on Elon. I've never gotten compared to Elon Musk before, but hey, you know, that's... Oh, Elon Musk is in the chat, I guess. Somebody posing as Elon Musk in the chat. All right, anyway, I'm going to be talking about video production for social media and for YouTube, and kind of ways to get started in that. I know that, you know, getting camera gear and learning to edit and all that stuff can be really intimidating. So I'm going to try to kind of go through how I think beginners could get started with it, especially if you're just trying to do social media content. You don't need to invest in a bunch of fancy camera gear. I'm doing this live stream on my iPhone right now, so really not necessary. It, you know, is helpful to kind of up your game at some point doing that, but you can certainly start out with your phone, that kind of thing. So I'll be talking about kind of methods for producing video for social media. And then I'm also going to be talking about branding and, you know, how to develop a good logo and kind of where to integrate your logo and branding in your content and that kind of thing. Because I know one big thing right now with a lot of us is our videos getting stolen and re-uploaded, whether that's on Facebook or by other YouTube channels or whatever. And it is an issue, and, you know, where a lot of us make our money basically, you know, by getting views on our videos, it is definitely an issue. So I'll be going over all that at Workbench Con. So let's see. All right, trying to work through these. Mr. Recoil, this Elon Musk character before we go on. I don't know how to do that. Anyway, so hold on. Sorry, guys. All right, Elon Musk is hidden. Let's get back to this. So anyway, can't remember whose question I was answering. I apologize, guys. Okay, yeah, Mr. Recoil. Gonna attempt to make a California King platform bed frame from recycled wood. I am not a beginner with woodworking, but what would you recommend using with limited amount of tools? So if you go check out the video that Chris Salmoni and I did together making the platform bed, that was honestly a pretty simple build. It was just a bunch of sheets of plywood essentially glued together. So you could probably find, you know, some sheet goods to use for that. And honestly, you could have built the whole thing with a circular saw and a straight edge. So really pretty simple build, kind of an interesting look. If you don't like that look, I don't have any other bed builds on my channel. I've never built any other beds, so I would just do some research online. I know that Mike Montgomery from Modern Builds has a bunch of really good bed builds. Steve Ramsey, Bob at I Like to Make Stuff. So there's a lot of bed builds out there on YouTube. So just do a little hunting around, I think, and that would be good. Let's see. Am I an educated carpenter? No, I totally learned how to do all this stuff on YouTube and from, you know, magazines and books. And my dad is a hobbyist woodworker, so I kind of picked up a few things from him. When we first moved into this house, I wanted to build some Adirondack chairs, so he kind of came up and helped me do that, and that was kind of got me started down this path. But just learned all this stuff from YouTube, essentially, which is a great way to learn this stuff, in my opinion. So, Rob H., what track saw do I use and recommend? I've had a bunch of track saws over the years. I had the DeWalt one, the regular corded one for a while. That was my first track saw. Loved it. It's a great track saw. Then sold that and got the FlexVolt one, the FlexVolt one from them. And it's really nice to have a cordless track saw, just if, you know, if I'm out in the bed of my truck wanting to make a cut on a piece of plywood, just to kind of break it down into more manageable size. That cordless functionality is pretty sweet. Inside my shop, for the most part, I use my Festool TS55. It has really good dust collection, so kind of any tool I use inside my shop, I try to make sure it has pretty good dust collection, you know, kind of for my health, and also just because it's a lot less cleanup, which is really nice. So I actually have two track saws, so the DeWalt and the FlexVolt, or the DeWalt and the Festool, they're both great. So I've also heard really good things about the Makita track saw, the Triton track saw. I mean, frankly, I don't think track saws are that challenging of a tool to produce. Most of them are pretty similar, so I would just look at the features you're looking for and pick one. You know, if you're wanting to get into the Festool kind of ecosystem with their whole plug-it system and their dust extractors and that kind of thing, I think the track saw is kind of the gateway tool for a lot of Festool users. So if that's a system you're wanting to get into, I think the TS55 would be a good way to start. Let's see. Am I coming to Maker Central in the UK this May? No, I will not be there, unfortunately. In case you guys haven't heard, my wife is actually pregnant with our first kid, which is awesome. I've got a crib build come up here in the next month or so. Really, really excited, but her due date is April 22nd, and Maker Central is like May 5th. So there's no possible way I can make that happen, unfortunately. I'd love to, but won't be there this year at least. So what's going on, Drew? Ox in the shop. How you doing, man? How long from Rahauj, I think is how you pronounce it. How long have I been working with wood? About, I guess, 2.5 years now. Basically, when we moved into this house, I started to get into it. Bought a cheap Ryobi miter saw as my first tool, and my dad kind of gave me a circular saw and a jigsaw to kind of round out my, and actually a router to round out kind of my tool set. And with those first handful of tools, I built a bunch of stuff, and then got really into it and started kind of upgrading my shop soon after that. So not long at all, actually, about 2.5 years. So Jonathan, welcome from the UK. Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed the free French cleat video. Boosh05, do I find it true that it takes money to make money? As in you have to spend up front to pay out in the end? I mean, I would definitely agree to that to a certain extent. You know, I think in woodworking, it definitely gets to be diminishing returns at some point, but you know, you spend money essentially for efficiency, in my opinion, with woodworking tools. So generally, the more you're spending, the more efficient the tool is going to be in some way, whether that's dust collection or accuracy or whatever it may be. So you know, if you're trying to build furniture for a living, efficiency is really, really critical. So you know, definitely investing money is part of the gig, especially with woodworking. You know, you do need to have some tools for sure. But luckily, it's pretty easy to find used tools depending on where you're at, and you can save a whole lot of money that way. So let's see. Dylan's Woodworks. The wall looks really awesome with that lighting. Thank you. What do I do for lighting? So I actually just redid all of my lighting in the shop with this American Green light lighting. It is awesome. It's LED, really high color rendering index, which means that the colors that it kind of represents or shows are much more accurate, much more kind of close to what natural sunlight shows. So compared to the fluorescence I had in the shop before, it's a huge, huge improvement. So definitely digging those quite a bit. I'm going to probably do a video on lighting, and I'm going to be rearranging my lumber area as well. So I'm probably going to do a video on that. You guys let me know if you think that would be interesting. I'm kind of hesitant sometimes to do some of these more kind of shop, just organization projects. I won't really be building much of anything. I'm just going to be kind of, you know, sprucing things up, if you will. So let me know if you might find that interesting. Let's see. Stumptown Woodworks might re-insulate the shop, considering replacing drywall with 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch ply, so I can do cleats or hang everything. Expensive, so would only do areas that don't have cabinets. Yeah, I think that's fine, man. I mean, I've got this weird combination of these kind of concrete block walls, since I'm in kind of a below ground basement garage. I've also got a little bit of drywall, but I think having plywood paneling is super, super useful. You can also do a little bit cheaper and use that, I think it's T111 is what it's called. It's tongue and groove paneling that you can use for things like cabins or not cabins, like sheds and things like that. And I know like Mark Spagnolo has used that for his walls in the past, and it's still wood, so you can still, you know, drive a screw right into it if you want to hang a tool there. But it's also, I think, a lot cheaper than typical plywood. Although I don't think it's that cheap. I still think it's like 25 bucks a sheet, whereas this 1/2 inch plywood was like 36 a sheet. So not a huge savings, but it depends how many sheets you're going to be buying. So let's see. What is my favorite brand of cordless tools? I don't really have one, honestly. I've used a bunch of different brands, and I think they're all pretty good. I have tools from Bosch and DeWalt and Milwaukee and Rigid, and I think that's all the cordless tools I have. But yeah, they all work really well. I haven't used a bunch of Ryobi tools, but honestly, I think it comes down to your budget a lot of times. So, you know, I think that's why in my 5 woodworking tools for beginners video, I didn't really go into a lot about specific brands, because at the end of the day, it's really what you can afford. So I'd say if you could buy an impact driver and a drill of one brand, or only a drill of another brand, I'd say go with the set, because that way you're going to be able to do a little bit more. So, you know, especially if you're not like a full-time furniture builder, if you're just doing this stuff on the weekends and in your spare time, I don't know. I think you'd be fine with more budget stuff. So let's see. Shane, off-topic question, what is my favorite type of joinery to use? Mortise and tenon, dovetail, biscuits. Easiest is probably the domino, for sure. I use the heck out of that machine. I actually haven't been using it as much lately, just because I know a lot of people watching don't have it. So, but yeah, the domino is pretty dang sweet. Traditional mortise and tenon is great. It's just a lot more time consuming, but it does result in some really nice pieces. So yeah, I would say I would say mortise and tenon in general, whether that's loose floating tenons like the domino, or traditional mortise and tenon. And actually, I would kind of put dowel joinery in that category as well. It's kind of similar and still nice and strong hidden joinery. So let's see. Fran, in my country, we don't have much plywood, but we have oak and walnut. What can I make from it? Everything. I mean, oak and walnut, great wood. I mean, I freaking love walnut. I use it all the time. Oak is great as well. If you just learn about wood movement and things like that, you could make just as much as you could with plywood, with regular old hardwoods. That's how they did it for hundreds of years before plywood was invented. So, Jeff, project turned out great. Thanks, man. I miss hearing you on the Crafted Podcast live chat every week. So, let's see. Mr. Recoil building the platform bed he's trying to make it as light and durable as possible. That's a tricky one. Light and durable. I mean, wood is heavy, so I don't really know. Honestly, if you have metalworking equipment, you might actually be able to make it lighter using metal because the pieces could be a little bit smaller and still have the same kind of tensile strength. So that might be something to consider. Jake, Lyle, looks like I'm sitting on something. Yes, I am. I'm not squatting this entire time. That would be a little bit exhausting. Let's see. Dang it, it keeps skipping ahead. Sorry guys, this is like a ridiculous amount of chats. I'm trying to keep up here. It's every time I scroll down, it wants to skip ahead. I'm just gonna go back to where I think I remember. All right, Shane, I'm gonna make you a moderator. Actually, I can't do that from this pop-out window. So anyway, don't worry about it. Let's see. All right, yeah, just did the best type of joinery, so I'm there. Simple DIYer. I'm in the market for a jointer and bandsaw. So, those are pretty big expenditures. I would probably recommend looking around used. I think, Joey, you live in, is it Florida or New Jersey? I can't remember. But I would look around on Craigslist for sure. I've gotten a lot of my initial tools from Craigslist. I've been lucky enough to have a lot of sponsors kind of come through with tools that I've kind of upgraded from there, but that was how I bought my initial tool set, and it was awesome. I mean, I got the Delta jointer I used previously on Craigslist and the DeWalt planer on Craigslist, so yeah, works out well. Dylan Woodworks, thanks, man. I think, this is the orange? No, never mind. Glad you liked my videos, man. I appreciate that. Tiki Barber, do I have a mortising machine? I do. I have the little jet benchtop hollow chisel mortiser. Works really well. I used it. I actually bought it pretty much just for the arts and crafts dining chairs I built a couple months ago because I knew I had a bunch of mortises I needed to create and it was going to make my life a lot easier. I used it a little bit on my Rubo workbench build too, but hollow chisel mortisers are awesome. I think they're kind of an underrated tool, especially among a lot of us YouTube makers. It's so amazing to be able to drill a square hole. It's really satisfying, but it also just makes things really quick, way faster than doing it by hand for sure. And I think it's a little bit faster than a router, and you don't have to square out the corners or anything like that. So that's kind of sweet. The blunderbuss, any recommendations for a hobbyist looking to start attending craft shows? So I've never really done a craft show, so I would recommend checking out David Pachuto, Make Something. He's done a lot of videos on doing craft shows, and he has some really good information over there, especially on pricing your work and that kind of stuff, so I'd go check him out. Alexa Maker, one question, why am I using so many battery platforms? Just one would make life easier. Yes, totally right. I am using this mini because I've gotten most of these tools from companies who send them to me to try out. So like the Milwaukee tools I got with that True Value project I did a couple weeks ago, DeWalt has sent me the drills, Rigid sent me the drills. So I realize it's not kind of typical to do that, but I kind of like using a bunch of different brands because that way I can kind of know what is out there on the market and kind of give recommendations, even though I know my recommendations might be a little vague because I just basically say buy what's in your budget, but that's kind of what I think. So let's see. Oh, Tiki Barber, Gastonia, North Carolina. Awesome, man. You're relatively local. So thanks to everybody saying congrats. For the one, I think I'm just getting to that part of the chat. So thank you guys for the congratulations. Zach Johnson, what do I think the cheapest hand plane I can get away with, or you can get away with? Actually, that little block plane I got for that True Value video, man, that thing impressed me. It's a little Stanley contractor grade low angle block plane. I think it was like 35 bucks. And it's great for a lot of stuff. It's not going to be great for planing like large surfaces or anything like that because it's just too small, but for flushing up edges, for adding chamfers, planing ingrain, that kind of stuff, it'll work really, really well. I even have seen a lot of people use the Harbor Freight planes and like get them tuned up and working pretty decently. So I don't know what the steel quality is like in their plane irons, but you can give it a shot and return it if it doesn't work for you. So let's see. Let's see. Dylan's Woodworks, if not now, did I start out doing work for others? I assume you mean client work. Yeah, I definitely started out doing some more kind of furniture building for other people. That's kind of tapered off a little bit just as the channel has kind of become more popular and I haven't had to do that as much, which has been really nice. But yeah, definitely have done client work and still do client work. The credenza I'm building right now is for somebody else, so not for me. There's only so much furniture you can put in your own house, so I think it's kind of necessary. Let's see. Darren Lemon, I've struggled keeping cuts straight when ripping French cleats. Wood seems to push up and away from the fence. Yeah, definitely. My suggestion would be to use a featherboard. If you notice in my video, it's called the Hedgehog. It's a little featherboard that a guy sent me, but any kind of featherboard is definitely recommended for French cleats because that way the wood will be kind of forced up against the fence through the whole cut. If you watch any of Frank Howarth's videos, you'll notice that he pretty much always uses a featherboard when ripping his French cleats because especially if you're trying to do a full 8-foot length French cleat, that can be really, really tricky. So a featherboard definitely highly recommended. Tim Wainwright, do I use any CNC routers or am I a hand tool snob? Well, I guess you probably don't watch a whole bunch of my videos because yes, I definitely use CNC routers, not a hand tool snob, really not even a hand tool person. I use pretty much just these tools that I have on this wall as far as hand tools go. And really just kind of the low angle jack plane is probably my most used plane. And then this little block plane right here is probably my second most used plane. Love both of those. Yeah, no, definitely not a hand tool snob. Chris from Denmark, what is going on? Jeez, this keeps skipping down. That's really annoying. Paul Jackman, welcome, sir. Nice to have you in the chat. Yeah, Jeff, if only all the tool companies got together making batteries on the same platform. I don't see that happening. I think that's the whole point, actually, is once you get invested on one battery platform, you kind of stick to it. So let's see. Dylan's Woodworks, I have a ridiculous amount of red oak here from my sawmill. How do I like red oak compared to other woods? Easier or harder to work with? I don't think ever used red oak. Actually, I used it and on the True Value project, actually, I used red oak. I don't use it much because I'm not a huge fan of the look of red oak. I much prefer white oak, and I'm not even a huge oak guy in general. Oak is a little bit tricky because it's super stringy. It's got a very open grain structure, so it can have a tendency to kind of chip out on the edges and things like that. But overall, I wouldn't say it's like much harder to work than anything else like walnut or maple or anything like that. So. Threadbanger, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the live chat. Nice for you to be, nice for you guys to join me. Let's see. Any recommendations for a bandsaw? I again would probably just look used in your area. I think you're gonna get the best deals that way. I currently have a Laguna 1412, which I like a lot. I'm actually going to be getting the Powermatic PM 1500 here in, I don't know, probably the next week or so, which I'm super pumped about. It's got a lot of features that I really want. A couple things to look for on a bandsaw is going to be resaw capacity is a big one. I know that I use the resaw functionality on the bandsaw all the time, and I think the Laguna has 13 inches of resaw capacity, which is a pretty good, I'd say that's kind of the minimum I would look for realistically. That allows you to kind of cut your own veneers, or if you have thicker boards that you don't need to be that thick, you can obviously resaw them. But yeah, that's one really nice feature. The new Powermatic one the new Powermatic machine I'm getting has 2 dust ports, which is going to be great for improved dust collection there. Also has a foot brake, which is going to be really nice because if you have a bandsaw set up well, the blade tends to spin for a long time after you turn the machine off, which is kind of dangerous, and if you need to change the blade or anything like that, can be kind of annoying. So having the foot brake is really nice for sure. So let's see. Matthew, hello from France. Thanks, man. Welcome. Yeah, Monty, I'm not squatting on the French cleat mounts on the wall. Rafael, welcome from Brazil. Man, you guys are definitely here from all over. That is awesome. Threadbanger, thanks y'all. I definitely like the way the shop's looking. It's looking a little more fresh than when you guys were here a couple weeks ago. So let's see. So Joey, Simple DIYer, he's looking for new. What would I recommend as far as sizes of jointer and bandsaw? So I just talked about the bandsaw. I would go probably a 14-inch bandsaw. Make sure it's got decent amount of resaw capacity. Jointer, I would say 8 inches. I would not even bother with a 6-inch jointer. I know a lot of people start with a 6-inch jointer, but it's a major limiting factor. I started with a little bench top Porter cable jointer and almost immediately realized that that was not going to be that useful for the work I wanted to do. So, essentially, if you have a board wider than 8 inches and your jointer, even if you have a board wider than 8 inches, you can't use it on your jointer. So the jointer is kind of a limiting factor in a lot of ways. So I would go as big as you can afford there. Thanks, guys, for the offers to help moderate. I will definitely take you up on that next time. This was just kind of, impromptu live chat, but I'd like to do these a little more frequently. You guys got a ton of questions, which is freaking awesome. So, Torito, I first saw your river table, and then I collabed with Threadbanger, so I subbed. Well, thank you for that. I had a lot of fun with the Threadbanger people in the shop. That was awesome. Rob and Corinne, I don't know if they're still in the live chat, but they were really fun to work with. Let's see. Le Great Boof, I can't wait to see me build baby stuff. When is that due? That'll be coming in the next month or so. So the kid doesn't arrive till April 22nd, so I've got a little bit of time. But the crib build, I think I have scheduled for the end of this month. So really excited. I think that's going to be a pretty cool project. So, and the triangle shelves I built last week, those were for the nursery. I just didn't announce it. I kind of want to do a big reveal on an actual project video with the crib. Considering most people who are subscribed don't know that we're expecting, so that'll be kind of fun. Let's see. The Davis squad, do I have kids? No, not yet, but I do have one on the way, as I mentioned earlier. Let's see. Rob, what's going on, man? How you doing? Do I ever watch Marius Hornberger? Oh, yeah, definitely. Marius is awesome. He's one of those like engineering minds that I kind of wish I had. I'm a little envious of people like him and Matthias Wandel and Chris from Toolify. Those guys are definitely strong on the engineering sides of things. Let's see. Andy Glass Impressions, what's going on, man? Welcome to the chat. I shouted out your drill charging station here a little earlier in case you guys missed that. Andy has this awesome drill charging station available. It's $100 plus shipping, and it takes about 15 minutes to assemble, holds a bunch of drill-related stuff, and I would highly recommend it, so go check it out. I have a link to it in the video description of the French cleat video from yesterday, or just go look on his website. Let's see, and Andy says, was my favorite beer, which that is a tough one to answer. I live in Asheville, which has, like, I think 25 breweries, so There are a lot of really good beers here, but I'm a huge IPA guy, New England IPAs specifically. So, you know, if it's super juicy and delicious, then I'm all about it. Although I like all kinds of beers, sours and imperial stouts. I mean, there's not a lot of beer that I don't like except for Budweiser and stuff like that. So, let's see. Deborah, even though I don't know what 80% of the words I say mean, she still enjoys watching it. So thanks, Deborah. I appreciate that. I think woodworking is kind of entertaining to watch, I think, even if you don't know what's going on. I think that's kind of how I got into it. So Javier, greetings from Chile. Welcome, welcome. Let's see. Benny Woodworks, how was it hanging out with those crazy threadbanger fools? It was awesome. It was really fun to have Rob and Corinne in the shop. It's kind of weird. We have this cool community of YouTube people here in Asheville. I would have never expected it. You know, we've got Threadbanger and then Seth from Seth's Bike Hacks, and a number of other people actually. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's in a town with terrible internet. There are so many YouTube people. So kind of crazy. So let's see. Thank you for defining French cleat, my Ouroboros family. Let's see, Matt Dodaro, Butcher Block. How do I recommend putting boards together end to end? So that's a little tricky for sure. I'm not even sure that I would recommend it because it wouldn't necessarily line up that well. But if you can figure out how to get it lined up, I would say reinforce it heavily with something like dowels or dominoes or a big tongue and groove joint or something like that, because it's ingrain to ingrain and that's not a very strong glue joint. So definitely want to reinforce that somehow. Let's see. Dylan's Woodworks, is this my first live chat? This is, I think, my second one on this YouTube channel, but we did the podcast live every week, so I'm kind of used to this kind of thing. Kenny K, what prompted me to start making videos of my woodworking? I think just because I had a video background and had been making videos for my day job at that point for a while, and I just thought it'd be fun, and it seemed like a way that I could actually make a living, and it is. So it's been really, really cool. The community here is just ridiculously awesome. I feel like I've made a bunch of friends in this community in the couple of years that I've been making videos, and just really tight-knit group, and everybody's super willing to help each other out, and it's a cool community, so I'm really glad I did. So let's see. Keith, hi from Toronto. What's going on? Robin, hello from the Netherlands. Monty, thanks, man. Let's see. JB Alexander, will I be keeping the 1412 and running 2 bandsaws, or only going to be keeping the 1500? So I have thought about keeping both and keeping one kind of set up for resawing and the other one set up for kind of curve cutting, but I just don't think I really have the room in this current shop, so I'm probably going to be selling the 1412. So yeah, I think I'm probably going to be selling it just because the shop is getting pretty full of power tools at this point. So until I move into a bigger shop, I don't think that's going to be happening. Let's see. The Everymaker, hello from Albuquerque. Let's see. Yeah, Sam Arner asked for free plans. Yeah, it's a big part of the way I make a living. So support me. Let's see. Andy Glass, next time we're together, round on me. Thanks, buddy. Thanks again for the drill charging station. This thing is very, very cool. So, oh, Dylan, you're in New Hampshire. That's awesome, man. You guys got some really good IPAs up in New England. That's where my wife and I lived before we moved here, was just outside of Boston. So that's really when I got into the New England style IPAs. So what's going on, Evan and Caitlin? If you guys didn't hear me earlier, Evan and Caitlin are going to be here all next week working on some projects together. So super stoked about that. It's going to be fun. Always fun to have a guest in the shop. It can get a little lonely in here by yourself all the time. So it'll be cool to have them hanging out. So let's see. Hi from Belgium, from SD Woodworking. Hi from Buenos Aires, from Pablo. Let's see, Kendrick. How did I attach the FastCap Best Fence to my miter saw station? I use their bench mount system, so just kind of the standard system they offer there. Yeah, abominated films. I would say ask questions that actually need to be answered, and they are more likely to get answered. Let's see. Francie, hi from Slovenia. Taylor C, thanks, man. Yeah, in case you guys hadn't heard, the Wood Whisperer Guild, which Mark Spagnolo over at the Wood Whisperer, they have kind of a paid site called the Guild, where they have super awesome in-depth courses on making different kinds of furniture and things like that. And I'm going to be doing one of the Guild builds for the next season, which I am super, super pumped about. It's kind of crazy, actually. So, yeah, I'm really excited about that. Let's see. In S, what made me decide to join Mark on the Guild? Honestly, I learned so much from Mark when I was getting started in woodworking. It's kind of an honor to even be considered to be part of the Guild, but it's something I've been interested in. You know, producing videos for YouTube is kind of interesting because you can't really go into that much detail or else people lose interest. And, you know, of the footage I get of a project, maybe 10% of it maybe makes it to the final video. So I think it'll be really cool just to do a different style of video content and be able to go into really in-depth detail about what I'm doing and hopefully like really walk somebody through as if they had no information about the build from start to finish. So I think that's going to be a cool opportunity. Also, it's exposure to his audience, which, you know, realistically, his audience is an audience I would love to be watching my videos because I feel like, you know, we kind of do some similar stuff. So, you know, it's a win-win for me. So, Stanley, thanks, man. Glad you liked the French cleat wall build. Paul John's life. So many North Carolina woodworkers out in the western part of the state for sure. Yeah, we got a lot of good trees over here for sure. I mean, getting lumber for me is pretty easy. So, yeah. Evan and Caitlin, let's see. Tim Geiger, hello from Medford, Oregon. Dylan, we were in the Lowell, Massachusetts area. My wife had a internship at the Bedford VA, so we were up there for 2 years. It was a lot of fun. So, let's see. Jeremy, yeah, nobody's commented on the shirt yet. Pliny the Elder, love me some Russian River. So, engineered squared. Hopefully I'll do more than one guild build. Yeah, I would love to come back for multiples. Yeah, I can definitely say what I'm building. It's actually already up on the Guild website for pre-sale, so you can go check it out there. It's going to be a Parsons style dining table, which is kind of a really simple style, just kind of, you know, rectangular top, straight legs, straight apron, really simple, but the base is going to be all metal. It's going to be 2-inch square tubing, so it's all going to be a welded base. And then the top is going to have an extension mechanism, so you can put in, you know, leaves to make the table bigger. So it's actually for my parents. I'm really excited to build this. I've never done an extension dining table, which is going to be, I think, a little bit tricky, but you know, it's one of those things that I'd love to know how to do as a woodworker because it's really useful to build an extension table. So let's see. What does my wife do? My wife is a psychologist, so she is a bit of a sugar mama. But you know, at this point, we're both, you know, making a good living. So yeah, let's see. All right, so I'm gonna hide some people. So in S, being that the river table build put me on the map, have I met Greg Klassen yet? No, I have not. I did email Greg after I put out the video just to let him know that I had, you know, built a video based on kind of his design, and he was totally cool with it, and I appreciated me crediting him and that kind of stuff. So I'd love to meet him. He makes some really, really incredible pieces. So Greg definitely, I think, pioneered a style there that a lot of people are knocking off at this point. So yeah. So Jay makes, so he asked, what do I do with the furniture I make? What proportion do I keep versus sell versus give away? it really depends. I build a decent amount of stuff for ourselves, but I also build a lot of stuff for my kind of friends and family. At this point, I kind of make my living on the videos themselves, so really creating the content is kind of how I'm making my living. So selling the pieces isn't as necessary for me, and I'm kind of happy to build pieces for, you know, my parents and my brother and people like that, my in-laws, people like that. You know, if they'll cover materials essentially, then, you know, I'm happy to build stuff for them. So it's kind of nice that I can, you know, A, have places to put all the stuff I build, but, you know, B, you know, able to provide people with these quality pieces that, you know, they really appreciate. So it's kind of cool. Let's see. How long does it take to make just a normal chair? It depends on the chair, I would say. That's kind of a hard one to answer. Probably chairs are surprisingly tricky though, so I would say give it some time for sure, because chairs certainly are a lot harder than you might think. How old am I? I'm 29. So yeah. All right, so I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. My phone is about to die. I've been on here for about almost an hour, so thank you all for being on here. This was a lot of fun. I'm gonna do a community post and ask kind of when would be best for you guys to watch me do these live streams more regularly. I'm thinking of adding them maybe weekly or bi-weekly, that kind of thing. I think it's a cool way to do updates between projects and maybe answer some questions that I didn't necessarily get to in the videos themselves. So yeah, that I think was great. Last question, how do I keep my Apple Watch clean with all the sawdust? I do not. This thing, I have had it for less than a month and it's super scratched and filthy. So still is chugging along though. I don't think, you know, it's going to be hurt by sawdust. It can go underwater, so I think it'll be fine. So thanks, guys. If I didn't get to your question, I apologize. The chat went by really, really quick, so definitely need to get a moderator next time. But thanks, everybody, for watching, and till next time, happy building.